Oh hi, Taryn here, and we're gonna do another round of smalls because I need more. I actually still need more than this, but this was the amount that I could fit into the time that I had. So thanks for following along, and I hope you enjoy these. All right, so I'm finally getting to this chicken. He's been through 2 markets now and hasn't sold as is. I had planned on painting him originally, but then I didn't have enough time, so I was just like, I'll take him as he is. Still cool, but I just envisioned him as something else, so we're gonna do that. Right now I'm mixing up black and this indigo blue to get a dark navy that will match the cloth on there, so that's why you see like little color swatches. I'm trying to pick out the color that I like best. And then once I get it there, I just made sure I mixed up enough paint for a little more than I think I'll need. And that's kind of how I do my paint mixing. I don't ever measure or do anything like that. I just go with my gut, kind of. So this will get 2 coats of paint. This is the first one, obviously. And I'm just trying to avoid the fabric because I want to keep the fabric. They did do some gold lining on it and I really liked that, so I was also trying to avoid that where I could, but I knew that I could just go over and touch that up later if necessary. Okay, so you've seen this guy in a previous thrift haul. I hadn't decided what I wanted to do with him yet, so I just put him off to the side. I did take him, this one's been to 1 market and it didn't sell, which I'm not surprised. It's just too, it's too blah. So it's gonna get a coat of Goblin Gray. Since I did some of the other stuff this route, I knew that I would love this, so that's kind of what's great about going through, and I'll just keep things set off to the side until I have some kind of inspiration for it. So that's where we went with this. We're gonna go kind of like a dark Goblin Gray theme. The Goblin Gray, if you know, is one of my favorite colors. It's just a really deep dark teal and it is lovely. Next up is this long like bent wood tea light holder. I really liked it as it was. The wood is probably a tone off for me, but I thought it was pretty wood. It hasn't sold. No one has even looked at it. It's not especially exciting for anybody. So we're gonna give it that old world finish because those are some of my favorites and they tend to do really well for me, so that's where we're going. This had a very high gloss sheen, so I'm sanding it a bit just to give it some tooth to get the paint adhesion up a bit, and then I'm going to use, I have a video coming up for the guest house, but I had some extra stenciling medium, so with what was left over of that, I used that to give this some texture. I add a little bit of color to it. If you've never done this before, it's super easy. You just mix a little bit of paint with whatever your stenciling medium is for a raised stencil, and you can lay it down and it will be colors underneath your paint coming through. So I'm just building this up. I'm not worried about covering the entire thing because that doesn't matter. I just want some high points with this with color in it. This guy had to be left to dry overnight because I had some really thick areas and I wanted to make sure that they were fully dry before I go in with my other paints. And now we've got round 2 of that deep navy blue color. And of course round 2 of the Goblin Gray for this guy. And then I'm just getting out my stamps, or some of them I should say, and figuring out if there's any that I want to use. And I've got this is one of the cheesier breadboards, so I just did a soft brown paint wash on it just to give it a little more contrast with the grain. And then I'm gonna go in with a couple stamps and kind of zhuzh it up a bit. So this is kind of how I do my stamps. I'll just do a little paint on a brush, and it is a little paint. I don't like get all crazy with it. So I put it on there. I like kind of the imperfected look of it. I just think it's lovely. And then I'm using just parts of other stamps that I like to
kind of give me the design that I want. So don't be afraid to use just parts of a stamp or parts of a stencil or parts of anything that you have, because if you like just a certain aspect of it, just use that one aspect that you like. You don't have to use the entire thing. I have some Christmas stamps in here. I think that's what this one is right here. It's one of the Christmas stamps. It's not Christmas. It's nowhere near that. I'm doing it in an almost black blue color. But it's going to work and it's going to look awesome because I'm just using parts of it. And I kind of like the offset stuff. You won't see me do a lot of symmetrical things. There will be an occasion where that happens, but for the most part, I like things to just be kind of off to the side, just partial. I don't know, I just like that look. But you do it however you want. So for that center section there, the word that came in the stamp, they can all be moved around and everything like that, but instead of actually removing the stamp, I just omit putting paint or ink on that one, and then I just put some on another and put it in there. And I feel like that looks better than, I believe it was the word good that was originally supposed to go in there. All right, for this next breadboard, I'm just going through the stamps and deciding which one I want. And I settled on this kind of angel-y type situation. I thought it was really pretty. And then I wanted to go in with Sea Glass, which is the really light blue there. I love it. I think it's a lovely color. Again, I take my brush almost kind of sideways and I'm just hitting the high points of the stamp. And I put it on and decide that I hate it. It's too light for the wood's too light, and it just was not great. So I took my Mr. bottle, sprayed it, and wiped it off. There's just not enough contrast in it, so I went in with the brown paint wash and did that just to deepen up the board a little bit to help the colors stand out. So once I got the wood deepened up, I still went in with like a shade darker, and it's a little more green. It's the cottage green in the Chalk Mountain line, so it's a little bit brighter and the wood is a little bit darker now, so I think the contrast will be better. So I get this stamped on and I did like it much better. And I mentioned this in some of my other videos, but just in case you missed it, to do the stamps right away, I will spray them with my Mr. bottle or use a wet rag just to wipe them off quickly so they're not sitting there with paint on them. That way my cleanup later is much easier, and a lot of times I get it cleaned up so much that I don't even have to clean them up later. My stamps do look crazy, but it's fine. And then I'm just placing the floral stamp kind of in a crazy mishmash way all over, as we did with the other one. And for the last board, this one was already a great color, so I knew I could do sea glass on this one. I just really wanted to get that color in there. And I just did straight florals on this one, just barely brushing it on, and then I do my crazy stamping. Like I said, not symmetrical, not anything. I just kind of put it on and stamp around until I like the way that it looks. I really like these because there doesn't seem to be any definitive edges. You can kind of just mix them up and place them wherever you want to, and it looks pretty cohesive. So I just really like the almost messiness that it is. Now I'm going in with a dry brushing technique on the rooster chicken situation. I didn't do straight white. I thought that would be just a little bit too bright, so I just did it with what was left on the brush of the sea glass, and it almost had like a blue jean finish, which was really cool, I thought. Yeah, I like this. It popped all the details just like obviously white would, but it just wasn't as contrasty as using white. And yeah, this was an interesting an interesting discovery. Blue jeans, if you use just the dark blue and a much lighter blue. Good stuff. Again, you're just barely touching it, going over it, hitting the high points. If I get any heavier patches that look like brush strokes in one way, I'll kind of run it a different way with a much lighter hand, and it will camouflage that so it doesn't look as harsh in those certain areas. If you ever needed to, you could always go back with your darker color and do it again, but a lot of times you can just fix it with the lighter color by running a different direction. On to this little guy, so you can see that Goblin Gray dries just much darker. It's lovely. I'm going in with, this is like a medium khaki color, and this is what I'm dry brushing with on this one. I didn't want it to lighten up too much. I wanted it to still be kind of a deeper look, but still pop all the details. So that's, again, why I didn't go in with a bright white. It was just kind of a darker mid-tone color, but it still just pulls everything out and looks lovely. I just think it's so fun watching everything come back to life when you do this. So I've got my waxes out, and again, I'm using dark wax, white wax, and clear wax. On the navy blue rolling pin, I went with the dark wax. I wanted to deepen up, richen up the color. And then of course I did put this all over the entire rolling pin. I'll typically do handles first or the midpoint first, and then wipe it back and then finish out doing whichever one afterwards. That way I always have something to hang on to. And this pin was actually already sealed, so it didn't absorb the dark wax like some would. You'll get some rolling pins that aren't sealed, they're just more of the raw wood, and they'll really take on the colors that you put on it, but this one already had kind of a sealer on it, so it didn't change the color of that too much. And then dark wax on this board. I just really wanted to deepen up the wood a little bit more. I felt like it was still a little bit light, and yeah, I just love how this one turned out with that navy blue color. I don't let the wax sit on for too long. I kind of just put it on and wipe it off on these. There's plenty of time for the paint to absorb into it, or for it to absorb into the paint, I should say, and get it sealed. I don't anticipate these getting heavy use. Obviously, they're not food safe right now. Yeah, even that just pops the grain so much more. Oh, it's lovely. Since I have my brush still in the dark wax, I'm just going to dark wax all the things first, and that way I can clean my brush with clear wax and go in with the other colors when I'm ready. So this guy obviously getting dark wax because I wanted him to be that deeper, richer color. And yeah, I adore this one. It looks lovely. So we dry brushed, which hits all the high points, and then I'm putting in the dark wax, then I wipe that back. All of the dark wax will sit into the low points and really just amplify everything. And of course, same with our little rooster chicken guy. So cute. In with the dark wax, which just really deepened up and kind of softened out that light blue color over the top, so it wasn't as bright. If you were to like that brightness, then just seal with clear wax. Now, this board, I wish I would have gone dark wax. I feel like I just made mistake after mistake with this one because I didn't like the initial blue. The board was too white, so we cleaned that back, did a faux stain on it, changed the coloring up, and then I put white wax on, which then softened everything again, which doesn't make much sense. I'm not sure. I just wanted like a softer look on it, and I hated it every time I tried that route. So I wish I would have gone dark wax with this, but it's fine. It's still cute. It's just I would have liked a little more contrast. On this last guy, I liked him just how he was, so I just used clear wax. And the white rolling pin got white wax, of course. It needed it, just to kind of pop the light colors a little further. This also could have been clear waxed and it would have been lovely as well. And this little candlelight holder needed its second coat, so that's what I'm doing. I'm just going in with the soft gray color and getting it all painted up. I'm not worried about being too neat. Again, I like the texture on it. We're trying to keep that. And we're gonna bring the green color that's underneath back through once the gray dries. So just quick coat of the gray. Once the gray paint dries, we will go in with some sandpaper, and I'm just hitting all those really like gloppy places that we put on the texture medium with the green under it. So now we've got this green kind of popping through the gray, and I'm not worried about any of the gray hitting the wood again. I think that looks really cool, just having all of these extra layers on there and textures and colors. And then once I get that all sanded back to where I like it, I'm adding white wax, which is adding another color and another layer to this. So we essentially have 4 different things going on here, and this piece just looks really cool with all of that going on. Then I'm busting out the gold gilding wax, as you do. So for this one, I want it to be barely on there. I'm just using my finger, and when you do this, it doesn't give a very definitive line. It's just kind of very rustic looking applying it this way. So I'm just going in, barely touching just like the edges of things, not all over, not even all the high points, just the edges. So you'll barely see it, just sometimes when the light hits it, and I feel like that's enough. Now, the rooster needed a different application, so I have a fine liner brush. I get that wet and then dip it into the wax, and it turns it into like a liquid, and that means I can actually kind of draw outlines with it. So I'm retracing any of the lines that it already had that had faded because I put paint and wax on. So I'm getting that all handled, and then I'll go through and highlight any other areas that I think would look better, just kind of popped out a little bit. This is a very dark piece, so I want to make sure that it still has kind of just a subtle bling to it. So again, over all the other lines that it already had that had kind of softened out with the painting and everything. And then like the eyes, I'll do gold, and all the other areas where I'm just like, oh, it just needs just a hint of something there.
Oh hi, Taryn here with Elegant Upgrades, and we've got some more smalls, because as you know, we've got a lot of places to go to and sell them for right now. So, you guys seem to really enjoy the last video, which I thought was crazy and awesome, and I'm very excited about it. So I'm glad you didn't run off screaming, because I haven't done furniture in a hot minute. So anyways, just to quickly go over this, I actually thrifted a while ago, and I liked it as it was, just with wood, but it's been to several markets now, and no one's even really stared at it. It hasn't been anything of interest. So I painted it up, gave it kind of like the old world textured, layered goodness, and then I'll actually put some tea lights in here for when it's staged up and ready to go. Tea lights are very inexpensive, and it's easy to just put them in things. So this turned out beautiful. I absolutely love it. Again, with like the dark teal and the dark wax and just a smidge of dry brushing, just good stuff. And I finally painted the chicken. I love him. I think he's so cute. He's actually not terribly cute. He looks dangerous, and I thought he was scary before. His little red beady eyes that he had was I don't know, he's just always looked very aggressive. So now he looks less aggressive, but still mean. And then, okay, this color, it's the one I mixed to make like a really deep navy. I love it. I'm gonna mix up just a bunch more. And back in the day when I still did single color finishes, there was like this really dark navy that I used and I loved it. I used it all the time. It always sold. So I'm like, oh, maybe I should bust that out again. So I'm gonna have to custom mix it and do this. But yeah, I love this rolling pin, this navy blue here. It's the same color we did on the chicken. I matched it to the fabric that was on there because, like I said, I wanted to keep the fabric that it had because I really liked that. And so that was the color mix that I did. Light rolling pin, love it also. I did, when I did the stamping, let the paint kind of mix with the white and the very light blue, and you can see it in this. Oh, I love it so much. So I've never done, I always do the handles and do like a food grade oil or something on the actual rolling pin so they can be used again. But like I said, this one has that big crack in it, and there's actually a crack starting here. And I had watched Jamie, Ray, and Zeb do their rolling pin situations, and they said they still sell even though they have stuff on them. So we'll see how these ones do. My other ones fly out. As soon as I get them done, they're gone pretty quickly after I do that. So we'll see how these ones do with the actual pin painted. I'm not sure, but it's interesting. Again, did more of the blue with some stamping. Love this. I think it's lovely. This one, not a fan of. I should have went dark wax. I went white wax, and I think dark wax would have been a better option. It's still fine. There's nothing wrong with it, but I just think I would have liked it better. It looks too cloudy. So, yeah. Would have gone dark wax. And this one, love. Just did clear wax with this because this board was already dark. Didn't need it. It's lovely as well. I was going to put handles on this, but I changed my mind. I might change it again. I don't know. You guys know me. I'm all over the place. Who knows what I'm doing? Yeah, so it is actually Easter. I'm getting ready to go down with Lucas and have our little Easter egg hunt into our family, and then we will be heading back up to Portland. So we'll be up there for a while again, and you know, we just like to go back and forth. So I think you guys are amazing. Thank you so much. We have blown over 14,000. I can't believe it. You guys, truly, thank you so much. I can't, never in a million years. I mean, 14,000 is really chump change to real YouTubers, but I'm so thankful that you guys are here and that you subscribed and are growing my channel, and I really appreciate it, and I want to say thank you. It's just, every single thing is a huge thing for me, so just thanks. I hope you have a wonderful Easter, and I'll see you guys next time.